I just love Tuesdays when I get to see all of you all. It's really fun. I'm Katie Hoffman. I'm the scheduler for the Greater Cincinnati Dems. And it's a job and a half. You have all these contacts out there, and you're just waiting for the responses. You know, you spend 30, 40, 50 emails, text messages, and you get one response. It's, you know, but I keep working on it. So I don't have the program all the way down to December.
You're not doing that
but
yet.
I can tell you Don Mooney will be here next week. He's a writer for Cincinnati.com. And he has lots and lots of history about Cincinnati, both from the labor side, both from things going on in City Council. So he's going to be talking to us about any charter amendment that's coming up in Cincinnati, the yes and no's of the charter amendment. And then you'll be able to ask him all kinds of questions on all kinds of other things, because he's a wealth of information. On the tables, you will see the flyer for the Labor Day picnic, the AFL-CIO Labor Day picnic at Coney. All are welcome. It's just not for labor. All are welcome. We have an incredible slate of speakers who are going to be there. We have our own Aftab Purwal and Jill Schiller who will be there. We have Marilyn Zayas who's going to be there. She's an amazing speaker. Michael Johnson, the new director of United Way, will also be a speaker. P.D. Talley, who is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Ohio AFL-CIO, will be there. And we are very lucky that we got Sherrod Brown, who's going to be with us on Monday, and Kathleen Clyde. And then for those of you who don't know him, who haven't had a chance to work with him, to do things with him, we're going to have Jerry Springer. If you don't know Jerry, Jerry's been around and he's a good old boy. So I'm really excited that he's going to be there. Jerry Springer. Also on your tables, there is a flyer for Jill Schiller. This is tomorrow night. It's going to be right there on Madison Avenue. It's hosted by Julie Sellers, who's the CFT president, and Reverend Barr, who was originally running for District 1. Rabbi Barr, sorry, wrong one. And so you all are welcome. It says contributions are welcome, but not necessary. This is a good venue for Jill. Jill is not a get up on the podium and, you know, get the crowds all hyped up, but she is a one-to-one person who does some really good conversations, and she's been doing a really good job. So, plus folks, she needs our help. She needs our help contribution-wise. She needs our help knocking on doors. She needs our help. So I would really appreciate anybody that would show up tomorrow night. Alrighty, more announcements here. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this over to Alberta Hemsley, who's coming in from the back. And as she's coming in from the back, I will take the other microphone around to the first hand that I see go up. All right.
We're ready for more announcements, folks. Here we go.
Susan was up before you.
Hi, on Sunday I went to the Cincinnati Women's Political Caucus, and there were a couple of women who are working to raise money for...
Lots of women.
Well, there were two women that were passing out these things to create a memorial for the women who were locked up in the jail 100 years ago next year. And these are little postcards, and I can pass them around. There's also going to be showing, what's the movie? Iron Jaw Angels, if you haven't seen it. It's a wonderful movie, and it's down at the new Cincy World Cinema where Dark Money was, and that date is, the dates are October 13th and 14th. If anybody's interested, just raise your hand and I'll bring them around to you. Get it to Peter.
Peter's going.
Okay. Who's next? Are you next? Tommy?
No, I want.
Okay.
Who wants to talk?
Here, Pete.
Right here.
No, I want to oppose.
Ellen.
Alberta Sheriff.
First postcards and then, here we go. William Messer.
So, if you remember the talk I gave a few weeks ago, which was called Saving the Planet with Report, there were a couple questions afterwards. One from Bennett, who I thought I saw somewhere. There he is. Bennett asked, what about goats, I think, right? So I found a study published in Climatic Change that estimates the production of the most potent greenhouse gases, which are methane and nitrous oxide, by 11 livestock populations in 237 countries. Beef cattle produced more than half of all the emissions, and another 17% came from dairy cattle. So cows are the elephant in the room, no question about it. But then it's sheep at 9%, buffalo at 7%, pigs at 5%, and goats come in, Bennett, goats come in at 4%. Bennett, 4%, that's it. The other question that I got was, where the hell can you find non-dairy yogurt? And I noticed that Clifton Market has been cutting down on its stock, and they don't have it anymore. But they still have non-dairy ice creams, 3 or 4 different kinds. But Kroger has non-dairy yogurt, but it takes some looking. It's a narrow little place with a little flag sticking out, but it's there. Okay, thank you.
Go for the non-dairy. Here we go, here's John.
Who's John?
I stand with immigrants and refugees, John.
Oh, by the way, with the ice melting, it looks like in Greenland is turning green again. And the ice is gone. Well, believe me, guess what's coming? Guess what's coming when the ice is gone? Methane, because of all the organic material it's creating worldwide. You know, when the ice goes, we get methane from the decayed organic material underneath the ice. It's a big deal. Right, permafrost, same thing. Oh, somebody asked me about my T-shirt. Our Bellarmine Chapel, which is at Xavier University, we're selling these T-shirts at $20 a piece, and all that money goes to local. When I say local, I mean people right in Hamilton County that need, they're immigrants and they're having problems. You know, it's mostly single women who made their all the way up here from Honduras or Nicaragua, and they have nothing. So we try to get them a place to live, and then we try to help them get work, which is, you know, people to help them out work-wise so they have some money and things like that. So if you're interested in this shirt for that reason, it's $20. I'll just put a sheet back there, and then next time I'll bring it. I'll put the name and size. Thank you.
Other announcements?
Hi, Pete from AFL-CIO. Thank you for all of you regarding Labor Day, your support. We'd love to have you out there. The speakers will start from 1 to 2, and hopefully we can keep them under a minute or two so we can get to the main speakers with Jerry and Sharon. But I did want to put this on to you. We are starting our Labor 2018 kickoff, our phone banks and our walks. It's a member program to get out the labor vote for some of us to win in 2018. Part of that is we have a 70-inch screen TV worth $1,100. If you walk or do a phone bank shift, it's about 3 to 4 hours. If you do 3 shifts, you'll get a golden ticket to win. So we encourage you guys to come out. We'd love to have you, whether you're labor or not labor. We'd love to have you part out there and help us win, and hopefully one of you can win the TV. So,
wonderful. Thank you.
Transportation is the issue today?
Transportation to where?
No, this is the issue today for today's.
Yes.
Excellent. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Can we win a house to put the TV in as well?
I can rent your room. Lease your room out of my house.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Craig again. Many people have seen the stories and have heard some of the homelessness issues that have happened downtown in the urban core. With the recent ruling the other week, a lot of people have gone into hiding. And I just want to remind people that we have this issue not just downtown. This wasn't just downtown. This was throughout our entire city. It's just downtown was more visible to people and got the most noise. But I can share that in Oakley, where I live, we've had a lot of issues. And so what we've done is we've reached out to Maslow's Army and the whole Homeless Coalition to get their Homeless Coalition's PATH team to come and make visits. Our theory is that we can find a bed and a hot shower that they probably won't come back to our community, and they'll actually get the help that they desire. And these guys are the experts at it. So I'm just asking that if somebody sees somebody on the street, instead of just driving past, talk to them, ask them if they need help, offer to call the Homeless Coalition on your cell phone to help them. Their number is 513-421-7803. Also, if you don't want to approach anybody, just call the Homeless Coalition directly, let them know where you saw some people, and they can help send out their PATH team to try and do some intervention and engagement. It's an issue that happens throughout our whole city, and again, while they got attention downtown, in my community in Oakley, we have it, so we have it everywhere. So again, Homeless Coalition, 421-7803. Thank you.
I wanted to sit here a little bit longer. Do you mind if I sit here so I can see the basement?
Any other announcements? Because I have behind me.
This is very quick. Hi, this is Susan Rivers Page. Is there anybody here from Claremont County? Is there anybody here from Claremont County?
I have one.
One, okay. Your representative, John Becker, has introduced another gun bill into the Ohio legislature, and to expand concealed carry laws. If you want to do some work for Patricia Crawford, let me know. I can get you some postcards to write, some addresses and so on. So that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? We have a speaker. He did show up. We had 5 of these. 2 of them have already been picked up. They are dinner plates that were donated to our organization. If you picked one up, give a donation to the Greater Cincinnati Democrats. That would be very nice. They're right there in the back. You can take food home with you. I have been hurting because I want to go around my precinct, I'm a precinct executive, and I've been waiting for something to happen in terms of something to happen, so I have something to share when I go around before October 9th, I believe it is, where you have to have everybody registered to vote. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew what to say to everybody when you go and knock on doors. And in front of you, I hope I have a whole bunch of these little tickets here. There's one for everybody. And I also have one page, these were expensive, this is $2 a piece here, folks. This is what my Board of Elections wanted to have for me. So at your table, find this paper which says, circled, "Am I registered?" I want you to follow with me on this paper, if you can. But what it has there is, when you go to your Board of Elections, and I have addresses for 4 counties around here, go to your Board of Elections and check in, "Am I registered to vote?" When you turn to that page, you come to something that's at the bottom here, where it gives your name and address, and it says you're registered to vote, and then it tells you all the things that you are responsible for voting for. Now, make sure you know where to find that. This is for Hamilton County. This is for Hamilton County, but it's for everybody. When you go there and go further into that, it will tell you all the people that are registered to vote in your county. So go to the next page and it will tell you that, for instance, there are 3 candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, 2 for attorney general, and so on. Then it goes back to, now my district is the 1st congressional district, so I vote for AFTAB. Does everybody see where that is? Did everybody find AFTAB there on the back of the first page?
Yeah.
Right. And then further down, I'm the 9th district, so my person for state senator is going to be Cecil Thomas. And then on the next page, I only have 1 person, because that's I'm in the 33rd district, and you look that up and find out who your person is. Mine is Cedric Denson, the county commissioner, county auditor, those. And then all of the back of the second page is all of the judges. Now, you should know most of the judges by now, because you've seen almost everybody here. If you're a regular person, you know all of these people because they've been here at this meeting. So hopefully you know some of those people. But on the real deal, they will not have Democrat and Republican there. You just have to know who your Democratic and Republican people are. So this is something you can share with anybody that you go to. As far as candidates and issue, on the very last page, as far as I know, from my district, I only have the county issue, which is Hamilton County tax levy. But if you're in those other communities, you may have some other, and the deadlines are not passed yet. So I think the deadlines for filing are like the 7th of September or something. So that hasn't happened yet, but I want you to know what's happening in terms of who's available to be voted for where. I want you to know your homework is to go home for your precinct and look this information up and find it for yourself so that you can help somebody else in the precincts where you walk can find out. October 9th. October 9th. Yes.
You can look up this first page online so you can get this, am I registered? I've been doing that at the food pantry, helping people find out if they are registered.
Right. So you can look this up. All of this is online.
This is online?
That's online at the Board of Elections.
I didn't find that, okay.
Right. Now, the address is kind of weird. If you look at the address for Hamilton County, it's boe.hamilton-co.org. Hamilton County makes a particularly difficult address. But I want you... Too many Hamilton counties. And without further ado, we have our person of the day here, Greg Landsman. Woo! I've got a lot of stuff written about him. He's going to tell me all about himself. So he's going to do all of that. Without further ado, let's go to Greg Landsman from City Council. Thank you.
Okay, like this?
Yes.
This is it?
That's it.
All right. Good morning, or afternoon. It's great to be here. I'm Greg Landsman. I'm one of your Cincinnati City Council members, and I'm going to talk about transit, the future of transportation. But I got to say, you managed to put 2 of my favorite things in one room: Democrats and Chinese food. So I may have to come. Would you do this every Tuesday? I'll be back. So it's great to be here. There are a couple of ballot measures that I do want to talk about before I jump off. So remind me if I forget that these are, if you live in the city of Cincinnati, these are additional ballot measures that will be on your ballot that I think are really important. And I want to make sure I capture them, but I don't want to, jump into them until we've had a good conversation about transit. So the transit conversation, I'm going to sort of break into 3 groups, 3 buckets, say a few things about each one, and then open it up so we can talk about it. One is our transit system, which for the region, for Hamilton County, is our bus system run by SORTA, and what's likely to happen next. And we have at least one SORTA board member here, Pete McClendon. I don't know if we have Pete. Okay, so Pete's here, and anything I can't answer, I'm sure Pete can. The second bucket is, I'll just call it the streetcar bucket, and I'll give you a quick update and answer any questions you might have about that. And the third bucket is really just like sort of individualized transit, right? You have mass transit, and now you have this bucket of, you know, scooters, you know, and Uber, which is now, and Bird, the scooters, there's 2 scooter companies, Bird and then Lime. Lime will be here next week. And then Uber's talking about, you know, essentially it's, you know, cars that you can just sort of pick up and go. Like the old Zip car, right? The old Zip car. And then bikes, you know, and what the future of Red Bike. So let me just start with the mass transit issue. There's obviously a growing effort to hopefully transform our public transit system, our bus system. And I think there is a plan in place that will ultimately go before voters and hopefully, certainly with your help, will pass. It is, you know, something that SORTA has been working on for some time now. It would go before county voters as a sales tax. This year it proved problematic for a couple of reasons. One, the plan really didn't come together until the very end. There probably wasn't a coalition strong enough to get it passed. And it became sort of an anti-tax year, in part because of what happened with the county commissioner's sales tax and then the major push to get a referendum on the ballot to repeal it. And so SORTA decided to wait, and a coalition that goes beyond what was put together before is going to be built. So imagine the broadest possible coalition of labor and business leaders and nonprofits and folks who are doing workforce development and, you know, our hospitals. I mean, the transit system, to me, and updating it has got to be our #1 priority as Democrats, because it's probably the biggest thing facing families in terms of their ability to get and keep a good paying job, their ability to get to the health care that they need. So we have a public transit system that's been in desperate need of major investments and for a long time, and we are at the end of the road, no pun intended, and need to get this on the ballot as soon as humanly possible. But we obviously want to have the right plan, the best possible coalition, and to get that thing passed so that we have. I always say about Cincinnati has, you know, we're blessed in the sense that we're a city that has, as you've heard people say, everything that a big city has, but in this sort of small town feel, right? We have these sports teams, and we have great opera and a symphony and amazing restaurants and great neighborhoods and so on and so forth. What we don't have that other big cities have is a really great public transit system. And we have to change that. And so, you know, after we have the plan and we're beginning to do coalition building, I can assure you that, at least for me, this is what I plan to work on until it passes. This is the next big thing that I'm sure you'll have questions about, but to me it is fundamental to whether or not we are going to really tackle generational poverty and get people to a place where they can get good paying jobs and keep those good paying jobs. I mean, Paige is here from UFCW. One of the big issues that they have here in the region is filling the third shifts at Kroger because of the transit system and becoming a barrier to getting people into those third shifts. So it's, to me, the number one issue, right? The second thing on the streetcar is it fell in my lap, happy to take it on. I like complicated problems, and it is a complicated problem. It's got a few issues. One is there's no one really in charge, and so we got everyone to agree that we need a CEO, somebody who can run the thing top to bottom, and that person will be hired within the month, which is great. That should make a big difference. I mean, can anyone name a thing that's ever been successful without somebody in charge? Right, like, there's no organization, no effort that was highly successful without great leadership. So we start there. The salary it was budgeted for, it'll be around 120, which will allow us to attract somebody. And we did it within the confines of the existing budget. We did not put any new money into this. We just said, look, the budget at the moment, it's a $4 million budget. We can find room in the existing budget to pay somebody to lead this so we can get it fixed. The second big issue is blockages, right? And so those are, that just requires, everybody getting in a room and problem solving. And that's happening now. And it's, so blockages is like, so the streetcar needs to be able to move around downtown rather quickly so that people want to ride it. And as it's moving around downtown, a delivery truck will get in its way, or quite frankly, a bus will get in its way. Sometimes it's just traffic, and that means that, we've got to be able to make sure that the traffic lights work so that this thing moves around reliably. That's the biggest thing. You want it to be reliable. And you rate reliability based on what's called a headway, and so that it shows up on the platform on time and it leaves on time. And Kansas City, which has a very successful streetcar, very similar to ours in terms of the route, in terms of the downtown density, it has a reliability rating of 90%. Ours is hovering around 40–50%, and that's all blockages. So we are focusing on delivery trucks and buses. And we took care of one big area. 40% of the blockages were happening at 6th and Main, right there at Government Square, and we were able, with Sorter's help, to move a few bus stops without, spending any money, so that there's not as much congestion there, and that's making a big difference. The third is financial. In order to increase ridership, we have to make sure that the contract is fully funded, and at the moment it was, it's not fully funded, but we can't ask taxpayers for more money, and so the people who are beneficiaries of the streetcar, the downtown property owners, are going to have to put in some additional resources if they want to see this thing be successful. And that will allow us to do any number of things, including make it free, which Kansas City did, and that should help dramatically. So get somebody in charge, deal with all the blockages, make sure it's reliable, the vehicles are reliable, and then make it free so people are getting on it. Now the third bucket is the confusing, crazy bucket of new things that are happening, and it's not mass transit, but it is transportation related. The birds, has anyone ridden a bird, a scooter?
What is it?
It's called Bird. It's a company called Bird. I don't know, they're scooters. It's like it's a scooter, it's a motor, and yeah. I prefer walking, so I'm not, I'm not and I believe we have to not get distracted by these things in a way that might undermine mass transit, which is what we need to be focused on. However, and they come in, they don't ask for permission, and they literally just drop off hundreds of scooters, and people like them. And then Lime's coming in with their own scooters next week, and it's a challenge because on one hand, people do like them and it gets people out. On the other hand, there are some safety issues, significant safety issues, and so we're going to tackle that next week. They're going to come and present to our committee, and the administration is going to say what's happened in other cities, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what we would need to do as a city, both for Bird and Scooter, to ensure, Bird and Lime, to ensure that these scooters are safe, that people are using them safely, and if they're not, that there are repercussions such that people don't continue to use them in a way that's unsafe. And I can tell you that I have gotten, while on one hand the innovation and the fact that people like them is good, on the other hand, I've gotten more complaints about, and every city has dealt with this, scooters, just being left in the middle of a sidewalk, people riding the scooter on the sidewalk. One woman, said she literally was punched in her shoulder because she didn't hear the person coming up behind her. And so it's a safety issue, and we're going to have to make sure we have the right policy that says, fine, you can do this, but only if you can keep everyone safe, and if you can't, you got to get them out of the city. And a lot of cities, I think most cities ultimately have said, you got to go. So those are the three big buckets, and I'll stop there, and just somebody remind me to give me, I just need a couple minutes at the end to tell you about a couple ballot measures that will be on your ballot if you're in the city of Cincinnati. All right.
Who's got the other mic?
And will you just say your name and neighborhood? I always like that. And then you got to do this.
Is it on now? I'm Susan Namey from Clifton, and I just wanted to say about the bike, because I know they're supposed to ride on the street, the scooters.
With the helmet.
With the helmet. But I was just over on Martin Luther King, where the new expressway exit is, and there's the sign that said, share the sidewalk with the bike and people. So, and I've seen two around town, and I think it's very confusing if sometimes bikes it's okay to be on the sidewalk, but then you're supposed to be on the road. So if you could sort of look into the signage.
That's awesome, thank you. Where was it? You said the MLK change?
One was by Martin Luther King, west side of
Got it.
Reading.
Hi, I'm Rosalie Van Els from North Avondale.
You gotta do this. It's like
Hello.
it's like your
Hello.
the old air bands.
Anyway, I'm really concerned about public transportation in Cincinnati. And the other things, I'm sure there are issues with the scooters and everything, but to me, the major thing is to make this a big city. It's a workable city, and it's an exciting city. We need cross-county buses.
Yep.
We really, I don't know why we haven't done what Chicago has, which is a rail line that goes in the middle of the interstate, so that, or something like that, so that we have some places where we at least have stops. They're not going to be every block, but stops where you can do crosstown transit. And I'm originally from Philadelphia, and every time I go back there, as a senior citizen, if you show your Medicare card, you ride free in Philadelphia. Here, you actually have to go down to this transit thing and get a photo ID once a year, which is ridiculous. For people who are handicapped or people who need the public transit the most, it's an inconvenience. And I don't know why that some
Pete's gonna
cities...
take care of that. That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it should, I love that it's free, but I don't mind that you pay half price, but I think that they should have something that makes it a little easier to not have to go through a bureaucratic mess to get the privilege of riding the bus. So those are just a few of the issues.
So, Pete, will you look into having to go downtown or wherever every...
Actually, it isn't even downtown.
Where is
It's in
it?
an awkward place. It's on Montgomery Road, in Pleasant Ridge.
So you have to go every year? I mean, it seems like maybe once, but every year. I mean, it's not like you're getting younger, right?
Oh, they don't want somebody taking your card, you know, they're concerned that people are gonna take your card. And the other thing is you get this privilege if you're, if you have a disability too. And again, you're making most people proud.
All right, I'll work with you on this. Yeah, but thank you for saying what you did about transit. I totally agree. Like everything, even the scooters, it's my frustration, and I've said this every time I've been asked by a reporter. My answer is twofold. On the, one is I like to walk, and two is it cannot distract us from the larger issue of resolving our mass transit issue, which has got to be our #1 priority.
Yeah, Councilmember Landsman, first off, I wanted to thank you. It seems that a big part of your policy initiatives revolve around families.
Yeah.
And as a father with 2 boys, it's very refreshing to hear that come from City Council. A lot of times, I feel that it's primarily business oriented, so to have that family component's very strong. I just want, oh, by the way, my name's Craig. I'm an Oakley resident.
Craig who?
Craig Rosen, thank you. So while I think everybody agrees that connecting people with jobs is extremely important, I've been fortunate to be able to go to various sorted meetings and kind of share this. By the way, the next meeting, September 18th, 6 p.m. They rotate between every other month between the mornings and the evenings. So I encourage people to attend and speak. It's at the SORTA's main office down on Main Street, 601, I think, Main Street. So again, September 18th, 6 p.m. My question is that if we keep doing the same thing and just trying to shore it up, we're not going to increase our ridership. And without increasing our ridership, it doesn't matter what we do. And so in Oakley, in Mount Washington, in Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, Kennedy Heights, Pleasant Ridge, we've been requesting for many, many years to have circular routes that will connect our neighborhood business districts to each other so that we don't have to go all the way downtown to cross back. And so I'm just asking that I would love to be able to ride the bus a little more frequently with my children. I'd also like to see more routes for weekends and for events that when we have an FCC game, we should know that we have that game and we should encourage use of public transportation. But if there's only one bus once an hour, it makes it really hard to do. So I hope you will look at those factors to increase ridership.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's how many of you are West Side residents over on the west side of town? So, for example, if you're in Westwood and you want to go to the College Hill Business District, it should just be an 8-minute bus ride. It's an hour and like 20 minutes, which is insane, right? Because it's just, you just cut across. So yeah, this is again, beyond the jobs and the healthcare piece, which is to me fundamental and core to who we are as Democrats, making sure that every single person is able to get to a good paying job, get to the healthcare that they need. It's also a way to grow our city and to make our neighborhood business districts much more viable. I mean, and so I do think that SORTA has done a good job listening to the community, coming up with a plan, and it would be a major investment. And it's one of those things where, it's going to require an enormous coalition, boots on the ground, and folks, quite frankly, I think, it's probably not the worst thing in the world that it didn't happen this year. I say that as a person of privilege who doesn't rely on it, and people who do rely on it, they can't wait much longer, and we're asking them to wait, 6 to 8 to 12 more months. But it will allow us to all be in, right? Because we got to focus on winning back the Congress and any number of other really important races. But we got to be all in when this transit levy comes up, because it's not going to be easy to pass.
Thank you.
Peter Rose, Clifton. Everybody knows that the sales tax is the most regressive possible tax. I've always wondered, why is it unthinkable to have a graduated income tax in Cincinnati? Why is it unthinkable?
You're literally preaching to the choir here. Well, let me just say, I don't actually think the sales tax is as regressive as property taxes have become. I mean, property taxes are killing people. Yeah, well, you gotta own property, but in this city, you have a lot, but even if you don't own property and you're a renter, your rent goes up. I mean, property taxes, we have relied almost entirely on property taxes and sales taxes, okay? The income tax is something that is going to have to change, and it's 2.1%. How many of it, I always do this, the setup's kind of messed up, so pretend we weren't talking about anything related to taxes. Okay, get taxes out of your mind. How many of you live in the city of Cincinnati? How many of you pay property taxes? How many of you pay sales taxes? How many of you pay the earnings tax? Yeah, see, what you all do, but you know what you do. Nobody really knows they pay it because it's so small. It's spread out over all the, tens of thousands of people who work in the city, even if they live in Claremont County or Mason. And so there is a growing majority of people on council who know it's time to use the income tax to fund these critical priorities, because people are property taxed out, and quite frankly, from a sales tax standpoint, outside of the SORTA levy, I think that's going to be the last thing we can do there too. So I'm 100% with you, but the people who are against it it's not even the business community, because I don't think that's fair to a lot of business leaders. The people who are against it are the large downtown businesses who've just been against it from the beginning of time. And my belief is that if they're part of the discussion in terms of changing the income tax rate, they'll be more likely to support it, as they were in 1988 with the Smale Commission, where they increased it by 0.1 in order to fund infrastructure. Interestingly enough, that our infrastructure needs are now, we're about $30 million a year short on infrastructure. So what happened in 1988 covered all of our infrastructure needs. If you take all of our infrastructure needs and you use the money that is generated by that 1988 increase in the earnings tax, it's about $17 million. That's $30 million short of what we have to be putting into our infrastructure. So every 3 years, it's $100 million that we're short on infrastructure. Those are your roads, those are your retaining walls, those are your bridges. It's a huge, those are your sidewalks. We are a city, and this is crazy. We are a city that no longer pays for sidewalks. We cannot afford sidewalks in this city anymore. It's crazy, and it's only a few companies that have stood in the way, and those, as long as I think they're part of it and they don't think it's going to be a free-for-all, we will see a change in the income tax.
Yeah, I'm Michael Burrow from Clifton. Many of the people in this room heard me give a sales pitch for regional rail transit in January. And I sent you a summary of my rationale for it this past week. The beauty of the idea that I've been trying to promote is that if you do regional rail, like cities like Chicago and Washington and blah, 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 you can name 100 of them, have already done, the development community, including Republican businessmen, will want to build stuff near the rail lines, and at existing tax rates, there's more than enough money to pay for the cost of the rail lines, even if we did high-speed transit like the Chicago one that was just mentioned. If we have to have a sales tax because someone wants to do more buses on the road, you're subsidizing bus riders, and rail riders pay 50 to 80%, which is a huge difference compared to 28% for bus riders and free streetcars. Although I'm liking this free streetcar idea.
Anything free. Let me just say,
but to me, this is something that's hard to understand why there isn't more interest in something that someone else will pay for.
If I had the option between, rail, the best public transit system in the country, and transforming our bus system, I would pick the bigger, more visionary, more expensive plan. I personally would. But it's not where the consensus is. And quite frankly, I would never, there would be one caveat. I'd only say let's go all in if it protected bus riders. And right now, the priority has to be, and the consensus is, where the consensus is we need the best possible bus system. That's what we can sell to voters. That's what bus riders desperately need. That's what our employers desperately need. And as a liberal, as a Democrat, I am 100% committed to ensuring that what we do over the course of the next 5 to 10 to 20 years is focused on all of those folks who have gotten the raw end of the deal over the past 5 to 10 to 20 years. And that's the American worker. That's our workers who have struggled and struggled and struggled. And I think every decision that we make moving forward has to be whether or not it's in their best interest, because their interests have been undermined every step of the way for the last 10, 20 plus years.
Doesn't help to put a sales tax on them. Same people we're trying to help with the buses have got to pay more,
Yeah,
We've had lessons.
So I'd just like to add that I think the big employers have a responsibility here too, and they can do a lot toward getting their workers to their jobs.
I think this is part of the coalition building that's happening now, is getting these big employers on board. And then the next step is light rail. I mean, the next step is, making sure that we, are doing everything that other big cities are. At the moment, the priority has to be transforming this bus system.
Dick Celeste tried to do something like this 30, whatever it was, years ago, and we're still staring at it. I serve on the Green Umbrella Transportation Task Team, and would like to invite you to come and speak to us. We have representatives of all the major transportation groups and bike groups and all kinds of things. And I just want to throw one idea at you that I was pushing for the last 10 or 15 years, and I finally got it into the 5-year plan, the Cincinnati something plan, whatever it's called.
Green?
No, not the green. The one that Roxanne was working on, that's, it's this master 5-year plan. What I got into that was funiculars for our 5 largest hills. These are not the inclines that you would put a streetcar on and take them up to the top. These would be small, lightweight pedestrian and bicycle funiculars. And a funicular has 2 cars, one of which is going down, one of which is going up. And the one going down has the weight that pulls the other one up, so they use very little power. They could be solar powered. And this would level out our topography, which is one of the biggest problems for people walking and bicycling.
Really great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I think it's time to talk about those ballot.
Well, we got one more question back here. I'll be quick on the ballots.
Okay, this first thing, I just have to get it off my chest. $30 million short for the infrastructure.
Every year.
But $30 million for a damn soccer stadium.
35.
I'm sorry.
I know.
You know. Well. So what I'm curious about is, does
You and I got
Metro-
reprimanded because I voted, instead of voting no, I said Nippert, which I thought was funny. Yeah, you clapped for that. I thought it was funny. And then I said Newport, which I also thought was funny, but it broke decorum.
But that's what makes it fun. So what I'm curious about is whether Metro / sorta keeps the demographic information of riders, if they have that on a kind of a day-to-day basis, because, I mean, it goes without saying that we need to update the routes.
Yes.
And I feel like
The plan that Metro is going to hopefully put before voters, and Pete has it, if you look at it, I mean, it's exciting. It's not everything that we would want, but it is exciting. Sorry, it is very exciting, and it's something that hopefully everyone is going to be like, okay, I'll go knock on doors for that.
Can you tell us about it? Or can he tell us?
Pete can.
Yes.
Pete's had his hand up a long
Real
time.
fast, sorry. Hi,
Yeah.
Pete McClendon. I actually.
You gotta, it's like you're
I
playing.
feel like Neil Diamond.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of ages me, right? Hello again. Hello. My name is Pete McClendon. I got appointed to the SORTA board in February as the representative for Warren County by Denise and Todd downtown. And you know, my perspective of this is we've been studying this for 6 years, and we've come to the same conclusion. Unfortunately, we have a city-based bus system based on a 1972 funding agreement based on a early 70s busing mentality. As long as we serve the neighborhoods, the city neighborhoods, that's all we need. And what's happened is the world's changed. People have moved to the suburbs. People have moved out to the counties. We haven't changed our system. We haven't grown. If you look at other systems, comparable cities, which we've looked at, whether it's Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Chicago, they've all changed with the times. We have not. We've had elected leaders in the last 30 years who've kicked the can down the road. So if you look at the issues, you know, I think we have a leadership problem. You know, we have a vision, and I put this on there for you all to see. We have this grand vision of 2021, 20 million riders by 2021, but the fact of the matter is, over the last 6 years, we've lost 4 million riders. So you can have all the vision in the world, but if you don't have a plan and a strategy to get there, we're losing, and we're retracting. And as Greg said, other regions are more competitive economically because of their transit system. And that's been told to us over and over. But I think we have a funding issue, not only operational, but capital. You know, since 2004, one of the first things I learned was we've been taking federal money that we get, and instead of using it to replace buses, we put it towards operations. So now we have a very aged fleet. So now operations, because money hasn't expanded, I would say, adjusted for inflation, the 1972 money is probably less than we had in 1972 because it's not expanding. It's retracting, which means we have to cut service. We cut service, we cut ridership. We cut ridership, we have less money. So it's a multifaceted problem. I would also say, you know, we have a siloed mentality in this county between the city, the county, the chamber. And when this Reinventing Metro was done in December, it was introduced to everybody, and then we had a change at the level. We had 6 new county appointees. But the new 6 county employees, we didn't really get this explained to us. It was just kind of said, here it is, this is it, you can't change it. So the Reinventing Metro says, let's eliminate the earnings tax, which all you know, we have the lowest earnings tax as a metropolitan region, I think, compared to the other 7 or 8 cities in the state. We have a low earnings tax. Okay, but eliminate the 0.3% we get from that. Replace it with a sales tax. Replace it with 0.5, 0.7, 0.9. 0.5, you'll retract more. You can survive on 0.5. 0.7, you can expand a little bit, but not too much. 0.9, now you're expanding countywide. Now you are truly becoming more of a regional transit system that serves the county, not just the city. Now, if you look at this report, it's at a website. You can download it. The website is www.reinventingmetro.com. It'll explain to you the 3 options. My feeling is I think we're going a little bit too fast. I think we should maybe look for a hybrid system, maybe a sales tax and keep some of the earnings tax. Because we have to address the capital budget, replacing those buses, but we also have to address the capital. If we go short, if we go 0.5 or 0.7, we're going to be in the same situation 4 or 5 years from now. And I'm going to guess, how many of you are originally from Cincinnati? You grew up here and lived here? Oh, good. All right, I'll speak to everybody else. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, lived in Cleveland, lived in Columbus. Cincinnati is a very short-sighted view. We build a small convention center, nobody comes. We build a smaller banks. We can't get people coming, the restaurants are leaving. We always are thinking small, small, small. We're not thinking big. And what I've always said on the board is we need a preschool, to have an adequate public transportation system, buses, and then transit, we need a preschool promise on steroids. We need a big campaign, This can't be just pushed by the chamber or the CBC. This has got to involve the community. We all have to get behind this, but we all have to have our voices heard. Just as Greg knows, that's how we successfully passed Preschool Promise. So, let's see. Now we are working with what's called the Hamilton County Transit Improvement District, which is led by Todd Platoon and several leaders. I went to the meeting yesterday. We have the vision, but there's got to be more input from the public. You can't just build it and say they will come. And I think if we do this the right way, we can make us more competitive, we can serve the underserved, but we have to fix our PR image. In Pittsburgh, I ride the streetcar every time I go home with the kids. We ride downtown, we ride to the parks, we ride to the theater, we go all around. In Cincinnati, there's an image of our transit system, it's a poor people system. Because if you look at the demographics, you're looking at mostly high percentage of minorities living in certain neighborhoods in the city, and it's got a poor person image. That's the poor person bus. I don't need that. And if you're going to sell this to the county, which I think Point 9 will do, you got to say what's in their best interests. You can't just say we're going to make the county people pay for a city bus system. We truly have to have a countywide bus system. Now, Todd's vision is to have not just a countywide, but multi-county state, connecting us to other states. And that's a great vision, but if we can't fix between the city and the county, no county system is ever going to want to join us. No other state's going to want to ever join us. So we've got to fix the mentality between our leaders. Like I said, we have a very siloed mentality, and it's hard to break. And Greg, you know that now that you're down at City Council. You see it, you feel it. But we've got to push this.
So I'm an optimist, and I'll leave it here, which is because it's got a couple minutes to 1, and I'm sure you guys want to get out of here at 1. I believe that we are going to get this done, that we are going to pass a transformative transit levy, and it is going to be an enormous coalition that we put together. It will be I think, an incredibly strong plan, and I think it will, fundamentally transform lives and our economy. So it'll get done. I believe next year. But I will tell you, it's going to require everyone in this room. I mean, I don't, stay focused on the judicial races, stay focused on AFTAB and Jill and all of the other really critically important races, the gubernatorial, Sherrod. I mean, all these things are really important. But, after Election Day this year, it's transit, transit, transit. Transit, transit, transit. Let me just mention the quick ballot. There are going to be a few ballot measures on for those of you who live in the city of Cincinnati, a few charter amendments. And we'll go over this in greater detail. Maybe someone else can come back and talk about it. I just want to make sure you all know. One of them is to get our campaign finances reformed so that you can only give $1,100 as opposed to what happens now, which is you give $1,100 and then if you have a bunch of LLCs, little businesses, you can give another $1,100 to all those LLCs. So that means that one person can give $20,000 versus somebody else's $1,100. So this will mean that you can only give $1,100, whether it's personally or through an LLC. The second one is 4-year staggered terms, which we're going to need your help to pass. So as you're talking to people, 4-year staggered terms will put us in line with every other municipality, the school districts, the county commission. It means that people can actually govern because they get a 4-year term, but citizens can check their council every 2 years because there's an election every 2 years. So 1 year, 5 people will be up, the next year 4 people will be up. And so it's the best of both worlds. And it really does help our candidates. So staggered 4-year terms as opposed to, thank you, so you gotta get that done. And then there is a few others that are probably more complicated, so I don't want to get into them now.
Don Mooney is going to speak to them next week.
Okay, it's good. Okay, good. There's one is around a public safety academy, which only provides for 5 points for those graduates from CPS who want to become police and firefighters, and I think that's it. Although David Mann may want to come back, you may want to invite him to talk about updating our open meetings laws so that they're more in line with the state law and what CPS does. We've never been able to go into executive session, which, as you know, could have been helpful when we were trying to deal with our city manager issue. We will override the mayor's veto next week on that. So we'll come back and talk, because that was a little bit rushed, but just know that there are several ballot measures that address charter changes to our charter that are important to us, that we hope you'll vote for and support.
Hello. Hello? Yeah, I'm going to keep this real short. I grew up in the northeast section of Philadelphia. When I was 70 years ago, there was a trolley car running down a main street from one end to the other that held up traffic, couldn't get to the side, and there were terrible traffic jams on this thing. 70 years ago, they took that down and put in a trackless trolley.
Yeah.
So the trackless trolley could get to the side, it didn't hold up traffic, people could get on and off, and you didn't need a bus, which was could use gasoline and polluted the air, and it's been a wonderful system for 70 years. You guys could do the same thing.
I totally agree. I think Pete's point, and this is the same on the streetcar, it's leadership. I mean, we have to have top-notch.
I grew up outside of Philly.
You know, get it done,
Pennsylvania.
everyone working together kind of leadership, and you will
Reading,
see
Pennsylvania,
transformative
Irish families.
transit systems. So, yeah.
Single member.
I don't know how to.
Just real quickly, our sister city in France, Nancy, has a trolley that's a combination of a track and trackless.
Yeah.
So if there's a blockage, they can actually withdraw the thing that goes into the track, and they can get on the streets and go around and get back on, and that's an interesting system.
Yeah.
That's a question.
Yes, this is a very nice idea, and it's nice having this vision. First, you didn't mention what the ridership is now, that you want 20 million people by 2021. And secondly, how do you propose to pass a 0.9% sales tax to accomplish this when the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners couldn't bring up a 0.2% sales tax and had to retract it?
It's a great question, and since we're running short on time, let me answer the last one. I mean, on the first one, you're talking about doubling the number of buses, doubling the number of routes, so doubling ridership. I do believe that if voters are given something new, if they're not just if they're asked to pay for something that they're already getting, unless you've really said it's an emergency, they don't want to do that. And that was the challenge with the county sales tax, is that they were trying to cover something that people felt like, hey, we're already paying for that, so either figure out a way to pay for it some other way, or cut it. And we don't know how that's going to play out.
You're talking police protection and fire protection.
Well, maybe.
Which is a lot more personal.
Yeah, so, but that wasn't made clear. If you are giving people something new, something they don't already have and they need it and they want it, they'll vote for it. So I am optimistic that when we put this out and we organize and people understand that this is a much better, transformed, modernized public transit system with the kind of infrastructure investments that we desperately need, people will say, absolutely, I'll vote for it.
Yeah, but didn't you spend that already on the trolley
No.
in downtown, which hasn't fulfilled its promise?
Yeah, we gotta fix the streetcar. So there's no question. But the most important thing is that this transit system, and so hopefully this will be an ongoing conversation. I'm really glad that you guys took it up, and if I can be of help, whether it's on this issue or any, just call down to City Hall, email me, Greg Landsman. I won't go through it. You just Google, and call anytime. And thank you all for having me.
Impressive. I was really impressed. All that money, all that promise we've got, my goodness. Just keep your eyes out, because they have until like the 7th of September to get that on the ballot. So we'll find out what's going to be on there by the end of September. And you will look at your your sample ballot by the end of September. In the meantime, you guys need to get people out to vote. Get out to vote. It really needs to be done. Thank you so much for having us. You've been a great audience today. Eat the food. Finish the food. We need more people finishing up that food. It's almost gone anyway. But thank you so much for having us today.